Let me unmute you.
There we go. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm just going to show you some of my work. It's not meant to be a how-to or best practices. It's just a window into the way we do a couple of things and what I look for when I try to create a drawing set or rendering images and presentations in ArchiCAD. One of the nice things, at least I think, is presentations to the various town boards have been with Zoom. And it's been a lot more convenient, at least for us, not going to the town hall, sitting in a meeting room and putting up boards, but you can share screen like I'm doing today, and you really have control over the meeting, and you can present things just the way you'd like to. And we present with BIMX. So I'm going to just share my screen here. And hopefully, you can see a BIMX presentation. This is for an addition to a historic cape in Hingham. And you can see in the top image, we use Google Earth. You can import the model from ArchiCAD right into Google Earth, and that gives folks a real good sense of the scale, size, and the appearance of the project. And this is the presentation that was sent in to the Historic District Commission in Hingham. And then I can present this with them online, and then we can do some of the fun things with ArchiCAD and BIMX and really give them a full 3D walkthrough of the whole thing. First time I did this, there was a lot of interest in it. So this is what they see. They're primarily concerned with the front elevation, and then we can zoom it into 3D, which is a lot of fun. So I'm not showing you anything you don't already know. It just seemed to be a very effective method of presentation. So I am going to go to the next thing. Vincent and I did I'm just going to touch on this briefly, a file audit or project audit, which is, I think, Vincent, you can tell me if this is a new offering from Graphisoft. They looked at a sample project, actually this project, and gave me a review of how my project looked. And I can show you this now. So here's one example, and this was helpful to me. They give you a rating or a review of how well you're doing on the various categories. So right here, embedded library, I've got a warning. Organize items into folders. Green is good, no images over 1 megabyte. And then I need some help with my libraries here, which I've since done. So that was a worthwhile exercise. Vincent spent an hour or so with me on the phone after getting this. This presentation is, I think, 30 pages like this, and it tells you how well you're doing. A couple of modeling things that I do. Ganged windows. This is one way that I have figured out how to do a ganged window. So a nice clean view there. And I take one window and I change the rough opening to create a stud pocket. So 2 inches on that side, and then change the ganging on the same side with casing, and the window turns to this. I can mirror a copy. Oops. And that, in 3D and elevations, it's a nice clean way to get a stud pocket. The only drawback, it leaves an empty spot, a hole in the stud pocket that I come back later and fill in. Another thing I like to do is the molded or the compound miter on a rake molding. So this is a project we did on the vineyard, and this comes from the Greeks originally as a pediment return. And we can, what I do, so here's a Cinerender image of that corner, and there's the real thing. Came out pretty well. And in real life, we get these moldings from J.P. Moriarty in Somerville. They have each piece available. In this case, we did custom profile. And it's 2 different molding profiles, the rake crown and the horizontal crown. And this is an old image of how you develop those molding profiles. That's a book from author's name of Knobloch from the 20s. And here's my profile. So I start with a crown molding, and it's dependent specifically on the pitch of the roof. And then from here, we can develop the raking crown, which is that profile. So I can use walls and custom profiles and walls and beams. There are the pieces to create these profiles. Which are right here. So that's the raking profile, rake board. And then there's 2 horizontal profiles, the soffit and fascia, and the horizontal crown. And the key is cutting bodies. So I've tried to have these miter as beams, but it doesn't clean up always as clearly or as nicely as I'd like. So I have these are slabs, and these are cutting bodies, and it just miters those pieces. So if I drag them out of the way, there you can see, there's the horizontal crown, and that's the rake, the inclined beam for the rake. And we just use those to trim that off. And then I do separate trimming bodies up here for a flat rake and that corner board. Another thing we like to do is my elevations. So I look at old drawings and I try to emulate some of the stuff that they did back in the old days. This is a Peabody and Stearns image of a house, I think on Newbury Street or maybe Com Ave. It's great. Haven't really quite got to that in ArchiCAD yet. This image comes from Panoyer Architects in New York City. That's a watercolor rendering. And there is my tri-edit and twin motion. So with not a lot of effort, not a lot of time, so I try not to spend too much time in Photoshop or other media tweaking these images, just very quickly get something that represents the project and has a feel and a look that I like. that's nice. Here's a graphite rendering from 1925 by Shel Lewis. One of my favorites. It's backlit, so the sun is illuminating from the back of the trees. Really interesting. So with the sketch model, you can do that. So I set it, the setting is Kohinoor. I didn't change any of the photo render settings. I just used the prepackaged one, Kohinoor, and then there it is backlit, and there's with the sun in front. A little funky on the screen, but it's okay, not great. There's a rendered plan. This is from Ferguson Shemamian in New York, graphite. And then there's the same thing with the sketch photo render. Again, not great, but it looks better on paper. One of the things we like to do is I try to get graded washes with the linear graded fill. So here's a watercolor rendering. So you can see at the top, it's a darker sky, a cooler color, and then it lightens up as you get to the bottom. And then the building facade here is darker at the bottom and lightens to the top. So you have reverse washes or reverse grades. And it's warmer tones at the bottom of the image and cooler tones at the top. Same thing here. You can see warmer tones at the bottom of the image and lighter, cooler tones at the top. And there's our triad. This is just ArchiCAD, no Photoshop, right out of the box. So again, I just did a gradient fill right there. Darker at the bottom, warmer at the top, or lighter at the top. And then a sky fill. There's one fill there, and then a warmer tone going in the reverse direction. So it creates a sort of a purpley warmer tone here, cool at the top, and then a very subtle, I think I lost it. And then another trick is this barn is closer to the picture plane than the house. There's my ganged window. So this is a live model. And that's a mark distant area. So you can change the mark distance area in the background to change the way this barn renders, even though it's closer to the picture plane. That's it. That's just a quick tour. Vincent, I know you wanted to go over some of the things in ArchiCAD 24. And I'd be happy to answer questions or go through some of this stuff.
This is great, Chris. Thank you so much for sharing your work. Quite impressive. I love the fact that you're using, BIMX with your Zoom meetings. It's shows, the level of diversity that you can present these days with, virtual meetings. So that's great. And I don't know if anybody has any questions for Chris right now, but we can we can wait till the end. I think I'm gonna try to go through my presentation and then we can have questions at the end. I'll start sharing my screen. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now. So let's get into ArchiCAD 24 and what GraphSci has been up to in this past year. So there's a lot to talk about. And first of all, I wanted to say that we are in a growing market. So this is kind of a snapshot of our clients. And this is us in the Northeast. So we have a lot of ArchiCAD users and planning on doing more user groups. So whenever you're traveling, you can always find users and other people to connect through our website and our events. You'll find them posted. And we do have a great by design series for users and other people to get a sense of what other people are doing with ArchiCAD and the industry kind of trends. So we have a current undivided series that has to do with the whole COVID-19 and how people are adapting to that. So ArchiCAD 24 connects design and delivery teams in a fully open BIMCloud environment, and we're focused on collaboration and communication workflows to try to eliminate some of the redundant workflows between all stakeholders. So with our launch, we've also rebranded. So you're going to notice new logos and icons for our products. Our Graphisoft has a new icon. Same with ArchiCAD, BIMX, and our BIMCloud collaboration. We've also launched a new Graphisoft Learn website for people to have resources. And we've also just moved. So as we're growing, we've also, basically outgrew our space. So we just relocated from Waltham to a little bit down the street in Waltham. So just to take a note, everything is the same except the address. And for our Learn website, we do have content for our ArchiPlus members that's free. And then there's other content and resources that you can access or pay for. So we have a BIM manager class that's launching in September. So if you're interested in getting certified as a BIM manager, or if you're a student and you need to sign up for Basecamp and learn more about ArchiCAD, you can do that. So we have a diversity of resources such as online videos, webinars, ebooks. So those are PDF guides. And we also have our updated ArchiPlus webinars. So if you're trying to migrate to 24, we just had our webinars in the past couple of weeks. So you'll find them on our ArchiPlus website if you're trying to get up to speed with what you need to look at in depth. Those are available for you. And we also had our Building Together event, which was about our new product. So if you missed it and you're looking for the recordings, we have them on our website. And if any of this information you're looking and you need to find it, you can contact me. I'd be happy to point you in the right direction. So to speak a little bit about Chris's file audit, this is something we've been doing for about a year or more. It used to be a service from one of our resellers that we're not now providing for all our clients. And it's for any project size. Typically, it has to be in the the latest or the last couple current versions, so we can effectively score the 116 points. And it's a one-time fee per file or per project. So if you're interested, please email me. I'd be happy to have a conversation and answer more questions. So let's talk about our ArchiCAD ecosystem. So ArchiCAD, it's one thing, but we've also made a lot of updates to BIMX and BIMCloud so that everybody can have better improved workflows. As part of that, we've always, looked at collaborating with other softwares and file formats. So we have very strong connections with a lot of different tools. And we'll obviously talk about some of them, such as Twinmotion and Unreal Engine and Rhino, Grasshopper. And lately, we've implemented new workflows with Risa and Sia, which I'm going to talk about. And we've also introduced Python inside of our ecosystem. So these are some of the direct connections that ArchiCAD works really well with. So we have BIMX, Twinmotion, Cinema 4D, Lumion, Enscape, Unreal Engine, Rhino, Bluebeam, D-Rufus, Celibri, Fuse, and Revisto. So depending on what workflows and things you need to do, there's always a way to work, and these are some of our very good brands to collaborate with. So we're focused on better improved teamwork, improving visualization, and best-in-class model analysis with collaboration. So what does that mean? It means that we've improved a lot of things inside of ArchiCAD, primarily focused on this new workflow with structural engineers. So this is our featured project for 24, which is one of the second tallest skyscrapers in the world currently, designed by Carl Fender. And we're going to get into a little bit about what ArchiCAD 24 is into different categories. So we're going to split them up into design, collaboration, teamwork, and visualization. So what's important to look at design is that in ArchiCAD, we introduced this new structural file, SAF, that allows you to coordinate with your engineers the models. And we've also updated some object libraries that I want to talk about and included our MEP add-on as part of the full suite. So what does integrated design mean, really? So at its core, ArchiCAD 24, we want to try to marry the structural design with the architectural design. So we have a structural analysis function inside of all the structural members. Beams, slabs, columns are now able to be directly looked at inside of ArchiCAD and analyzed. So this new structural analysis file format, which will be part of the OpenBIM interoperability exchange, is going to be directly imported inside of SIA and RISA through our BIMCloud. So what does that mean? It means that inside of ArchiCAD, we've introduced a model checking compatibility. It means that you're going to be able to exchange your structural analysis model and not have the structural engineer rebuild it from scratch. They're going to be able to send it back to you, and you're going to be able to have an integral workflow. So as part of that, we've added the MEP add-on inside of ArchiCAD. So you'll be able to model all your MEP system, which also includes the library for the MEP add-on. So this is a quick snapshot of the new structural interface in terms of the analytical model. So inside of Teamwork, you're going to be able to collaborate with other structural engineers with their structural analysis. So you'll be able to import and export your files to check your structural model. So this is just a quick video showing the structural model. And what we're going to do is just bring in the new set of structural analysis nodes. So you can see the connections, if they're welded or not, or the types of connections. So this is a lot more involved in terms of architectural work. So not all projects are going to require these types of workflow. It's specific to certain types of projects. And you're going to be able to look at these connections and update your models accordingly. So you're going to be able to save that file and keep the process over and over. So what does that mean? So inside of once you have your structural analysis inside of ArchiCAD, you're going to be able to compare these changes. So every time there's a change, you're going to be able to compare from one iteration to the other and make the appropriate change inside of ArchiCAD. So we have our automatic collision tool, which is going to be very helpful for the MEP add-on. So when you're going to be modeling your systems, you're going to be able to find clashes automatically with walls or structure or other elements that you're going to have. And these are just showing some images of basically the MEP routing feature. So you can basically model straight ducts, round ducts, and create custom diffusers or panels depending on what you need to do. You can model the HVAC system, the plumbing, or electrical conduits depending on what is needed. So we've updated a lot of the residential furniture, so you can bring some of your renderings to life a lot easier. Some of my favorite ones are the new pillows, couches, and tables. And you'll see that a lot of these objects have a lot of different options when you're going to look through them. So here are some quick renderings showing the different furniture. So vases, couches, coffee stands, beds, and couches have been updated. So you don't necessarily need to go find more of the manufacturer's content. You can get what you need with what's inside of ArchiCAD. And for those on the Macs, we've also released a dark mode. If you're on Mojave or higher, you're going to be able to have a dark mode inside of ArchiCAD for those that need it for their eye strain or they prefer it. So this is just showing more iterations of the structural analytical model that we want to make sure we want to collaborate with. So as part of this, you're going to be able to analyze this a lot better. We also have these algorithmic design analytical tools with Grasshopper. So if you have connections with Rhino and Grasshopper, you're going to be able to use some of these add-ons inside of there to do different things. So this is showing an example of a sun shading system that's fully parametric and panelized and scheduled inside of ArchiCAD with the basis of designing inside of Rhino and Grasshopper for quick iterations and analytical analysis. So this is obviously a specialized workflow. Depending on what you're doing, ArchiCAD allows a lot of flexibility so that you can basically solve the problems based on your design or the vision of the project. So we have bidirectional workflow with Grasshopper and Rhino and other tools. That means that you can push your projects or changes from one software to the other. So you can start in ArchiCAD and push your design backwards and forward through Rhino and Grasshopper. We have direct, hot links with your Rhino files. So if you want to start in Rhino and then go into ArchiCAD, you can do either one. So out of that, you can then start plugging into other different types of system, such as site analysis and site modeling with other sets of data. So you can start looking at ways to look at quickly site modeling, large scales configuration based on those resources for site modeling. So here you see an example of Grasshopper and Rhino and basically massing a whole site based on boundaries of buildings and defining some heights and topography. And you can quickly, inside of ArchiCAD and other programs, just figure out programming and push it back and forth. So if you want to set your program inside of ArchiCAD and look at how that works, you can compare it pretty easily and then apply schedules and quantity takeoff based on certain configurations or locations. And you can obviously, inside of ArchiCAD, display some graphic overrides based on what you're trying to do or analyze for quick representations. So you could do, analytical model and show, vertical members versus secondary, load bearing versus non-load bearing, and so on and so forth. So with these tools, obviously inside of ArchiCAD, there's a lot of objects and ways to do sustainable design. We have a lot of different workflows with Ladybug and Grasshopper, so you can start doing shading analysis of your facades. If you want to export to GBXML and do an analytical model, we have a way to export that. And if you're trying to look at your scene inside of different seasons, with the use of Twinmotion, you can quickly visualize, your scenes in different seasons and kind of get a sense of what it is at that time. At the bottom there's also, daylighting analysis that you can do with other tools. And obviously want to focus on the BIMCloud, which is what allows for teamwork. And we've updated BIMCloud to have files now, so you can upload your files that are shared with your teamwork projects without having a dedicated file server. So all those files and resources are kind of stored in one place now. So also we want to talk about our D-Rufus ArchiCAD direct connection, which allows for larger projects to be able to maintain your program assets and make sure you have all the required equipment per room or for your project. So we've updated our issue and tracking management as part of this suite so that we can track changes easier, assign changes, and track them and visualize them as well. So you can do model compare and look at all of the issues and tasks and how to notify who's in charge of what change. And that's all done through our issue management and track management inside of ArchiCAD. You're probably not necessarily going to get into this if you're doing small projects, but if you're doing large collaboration projects, this is definitely something that's going to help along tracking issues. So with Bluebeam, you're going to also be able to mark up if you want with Bluebeam and send them back to your layouts. So there's different workflows and flexibilities there. What I wanted to get next is to highlight that we want to have some minimize the amount of data loss throughout this new workflow. So what's important is that we're not working in silos as much, but really looking at the same kind of information and data as we move forward. One thing that really makes a difference for me in this new version is our updated documentation processes. And with Python, you're going to be able to add automation to some of your scripts. So what does that mean? It means that basically some of the streamlined processes that you've done in the past, figuring out how many seats you need in an auditorium, for example, and the spacing, you're going to be able to predefine some quick parameters so you can quickly space all your seating. And that's just a quick example. On our website, we've launched some documentation on Python. So Python is a scripting language that allows you to put in some variables and functions so that you can get output faster instead of doing each iteration one at a time. So this kind of allows you to automate your process. And if you go to our website and our help center, you're going to be able to find ready to go scripts. So here, there's a few examples that you're going to find. So here we have a room report generator, and you'll find some other ones on there. And with the Python, we've also added Paramo, which is a visual GDL scripting tool. So that allows you to basically create parametric shapes, buildings, or objects so that you can keep using them, make changes to them. And this currently only works on the Windows version, but there'll be a release later so that it's compatible on the Mac version as well. So this is kind of a node-based algorithm. So you'll be able to basically put in your functions of those objects so that they become parametric. So you can see on the left here, you basically have a hierarchy of inputs and shapes that you can put and values that you can predefine so that you can start changing or adjusting certain shapes according to what you're trying to design or model. So to help support everybody with, add-ons and other things, we've, always have our API that's available for our mobile app, which is BIMX, and for ArchiCAD. So if you ever need something specialized or customized inside of ArchiCAD, that's our resources. And same with the GDL Center. So to help supplement Paramo, you might need to go into our GDL Center to look at some of these functions and what they might do so that you can quickly make parametric objects. So we've talked about BIMX a little bit, but in this new updated version, we've released our new rendering engine as part of the suite. So that means you're going to have very large models that you can open inside of BIMX without having any delay or lag. It'll be able to open. And we've also updated our markup features with BIMCloud so that you can exchange those notes with your team. I'm just checking the chat here for a second. Okay. So let's talk about visualization. So BIMX and Twinmotion are some of the most preferred workflows with ArchiCAD because it allows basically flexibility in showing your design at any places. So with BIMX, it lives on your phone, on your iPad, or on the web. And we also have a desktop version that's going to get updated as well. What's the benefit of BIMX is that you can put it in VR pretty easily with your phone. So if you have a Google Cardboard, you can do a quick head tracking. But if you want to do a more realistic VR experience, you can send it to Twinmotion and start doing basically an experience through the presenter of different spots where you want to do. So these are some quick renderings inside of Twinmotion on the left, same on the top right, and then Cinema 4D at the bottom. So with the VR and Twinmotion, you're going to be able to deliver better renderings and more accurate renderings. And because they're inside of ArchiCAD, you know that they're always going to be streamlined throughout your workflow and process. And I have a little animation to show you a sun shadow study inside of Twinmotion, so you can quickly create them. And you have a direct link with Twinmotion so that every time you make changes in ArchiCAD, you can keep making renderings quickly without having to wait a long time. And here is the little sun shadow. So from morning to evening, you can create this in basically a minute without having to wait long and render it at pretty high quality. So here are some hidden gems inside of ArchiCAD 24 specifically. So we've improved the transparency inside of 24. So when you're looking in the OpenGL and you have two transparent glass, you're going to be able to tell that there's another one behind it. We've also reorganized the toolbar or toolbox, I'm sorry. So there used to be a more menu at the bottom that's now renamed, or I should say it's removed, and we have now one that's called viewpoint. So it's now split up into design, viewpoint, and document. We've also have improved stretching configuration for the for some of the dialog boxes so that it stretches better. We've also updated our attribute manager so that you can re-index some of your attributes. So if you're a BIM manager and you're trying to clean up your templates and fix things, this is a pretty useful feature. We also updated our zone tool dialog. It used to be, not editable as much or laid out a certain way, so we fixed a few things. We've updated our icon details. I guess there was not enough feedback on what they were before, so we've updated those. We've also added new work environment profiles. So as part of the MEP and structural workflow, we've added some work environments so you can have the right palettes and toolbars open for you. So I recommend that you check those out as part of your investigation of the new tool when you're looking at the new version. And we've also added a center node for the column so that when you're moving the column, you can anchor it based on a center point, or if you want to reference it from that, you can do it. So it's visible in plan view and 3D view as well. And not to forget, we've also released a direct connection with Unreal Studio. So Unreal Studio is what Twinmotion is running out of. So it's the same rendering engine, but it allows you to do basically more in terms of visualization, or if you want to gamify your project, you can basically do that inside Unreal Studio. And that kind of summarizes, the new things with ArchiCAD 24 and some of our products. If you go to our help center, though, you're going to see articles for every categories and more documentation specifically to each of them. So some of you that been using ArchiCAD for a while are probably aware that the MEP modeler has been out for a while. So now it's integrated as part of the whole suite. So that gives you a lot more flexibility on how to model things, not just MEP systems. As you know, in ArchiCAD, each tool, you can model different things with the use of different tools. So I guess we're at a good point to answer some questions now and go into specifics. So I want to stop sharing my screen and go to the chat, and maybe we can start answering some questions from the top. So I guess I'll start with Chris. Make sure we can answer questions towards Chris's presentation. And I guess you can read the chat too, Chris, right? Correct?
Yeah, so I had one question from Ruben, who was wondering how I transitioned from a 2D elevation to the 3D model. That's in BIMX, and I was sharing my iPad wirelessly through the Zoom meeting, which is a fun trick. So I won't do it now, but that's BIMX, and I can run through my iPad here and then share this screen, and that's what gives the animation transition between the 2D elevation and the 3D model.
Great. If anybody wants to talk and they want to raise their hand instead of typing, please let me know. I'm happy to unmute you as well. Just bear with me while I'm reading through these comments. Okay, so so in Twinmotion, you can do a construction animation. So if you want to do phasing inside of Twinmotion, there's a hierarchy of layers. So depending on how you export it, you can do a construction animation. There's BIMX rendering engine's been updated for the whole suite. So BIMX Pro and the regular BIMX both have the updated rendering engine. And in terms of Paramo, if you want to find some tutorials and how to use it, I think we're still building a lot of them. I assume we're going to have some on our Learn website, but you can also go to our general Paramo page to find the Get Started and PDFs. If you're looking for more, I'm happy to look if there's any additional resources. So just so you know, there'll be a lot more coming out, I'm sure. So the difference between Rhino, Grasshopper, and Paramo is that Paramo is specifically to ArchiCAD to create GDL objects. So if you need a chair or a table that's adjustable, I've seen somebody build a whole modular building with Paramo already. So we're still exploring the possibilities of that. So it can do a lot more. So BIM VR in Twinmotion, it's not similar to BIMX in terms of how you navigate, because it's like a fishing rod that teleports you from one space to the other. So you can't really necessarily do a walking mode, but you can basically explore the whole model. You can go to pre-saved locations. So if you have a big space, you don't have to do that. At least that's in VR mode. Okay, I think sorry, I'm still skimming through some of these. All right, I think I've answered everything. If anybody wants to share a project or something they want to do for the next user group, or if you have some ideas in mind, I'm always open to suggestions. You can email me anytime, and I'm happy to organize an event. And if nobody else has any more questions, or if you want to add anything, Chris, you're more than welcome to. Okay, sounds like you're good. Go ahead, Ruben. Do you want, let me see. Hold on, you're muted, Chris.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Hello.
Yep.
Thanks. My question is still with BIM. When I create an elevation, it's not using BIMX. I guess I'm not familiar with what you're doing, Chris, with that nice little switch when you're presenting live to someone. You're able to show that elevation, and then you're able to move it. Of course, that's not going to be helpful only in a live situation, but I thought it would be something when there is a client that wants to see a lot of 3D visuals, it would be something that would be good to know. So I'm not sure. My question is, how do you get to BIMX with your elevation, and what how do you do that? It's more of a how to question. I guess it's not appropriate here, but that's what my question is.
No, and Vincent, you can correct me if I'm not being clear. It's a publisher set. So in a publisher set, you have the drawings that you want. In this case, the drawings that I submitted to the town, so plan, section, elevation. And in that publisher set, there's also a view of the 3D model. So that group of drawings, the 3D model and plan, section, elevations, is uploaded to the site, and then you download it to your mobile device, and that's how it becomes integrated, the 2D versions with the 3D model.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct, Chris. I'd be happy to show you, Ruben, if you want. We can schedule some time, me and you, to kind of show you how that works more specifically. But yeah, inside of ArchiCAD, as Chris mentioned, it's basically a publisher set, and you have to just make sure you have your layouts that you want to visualize and a model to interact the layouts with. So as long as you have a 3D view and your layouts, then they're all going to talk to each other based on how they're placed within that project.
All right, thank you.
But you're right, it's only available on the mobile device and not the desktop, Adam. Those functions, but they're working on it so that it's all the same. So if you do need to see it on the desktop, the web version works as well for that.
As a sort of a fun side note, I give the model to the guys on site building the house in these cases, and I find that they find things that I haven't modeled, right? You don't model absolutely 100% of the building, every connection, every detail, every soffit, everything. And they will stand there on site with their phone or iPad and zoom it around and zoom in and say, what should we do here? You know, so it can be a challenge sometimes.
Great. Well, it seems like we can end like 5 minutes early, and I guess we'll set up our next user group. I think we have one set up for September, and everybody should be able to get an email with the next one. If you don't see an email, you're always welcome to check our blog or our events. Most user groups are posted there or at the BSA's website. And I'll post my email in case anybody has any follow-up questions or comments. You're more than welcome to email me. And we're also going to post a recording of this if anybody wants to rewatch this later. Thank you, everybody, and have a good week and a good rest of your day.